Most people think their life changes when their circumstances change, when they have this enormous amount of money, when they meet the perfect person, when they become more confident. But the reality is, it's pretty much the opposite, or more so the opposite. Your life changes when your identity change. When you change your identity, your life automatically changes to match it. And the most interesting, I think, point about it all is that if you don't change your identity first, your life tends to keep recreating circumstances and lessons and patterns until you really see what's going on and you change your identity. Or you continue to go on with the same life and doing the same things over and over. And if you really think about it, someone who is a professional athlete or identifies as an athlete works out every day, eats well. They're very conscious on their workouts and how their muscles and their body's changing and how they're performing. Someone who's an entrepreneur, they see opportunities everywhere. You can be at a restaurant and they're thinking about how they can make this restaurant make 10x. Or someone who just feels unlucky and is pessimistic about life. They see obstacles and things that are roadblocking them every step of the way. So when you change your identity, the filter which you see your reality changes. For instance, you identify as a successful content creator. You see it's easy for you to create content. It's easy for you to run into people who are doing the same things that you're doing. It's easy for these things to come and be drawn to you. So the first step is understanding who you are becoming, because that's everything. When you understand what identity you want to take on and what identity you are or already have on, that's when the game changes. Because if it's not what you want, if you're not getting what you want out of life, then of course you can change it. So your brain actually has this system that allows you to even adjust and filter this even more. It's called the reticular activating system. And this system's primary job is pretty much to take all the information that we receive from the world and filter it to show you what your internal beliefs are. So at every moment and every step of your day, you are pretty much looking at the mirror of what you are internally thinking and feeling and what you believe to be true in your life. So on so many levels, you're being shown what identity and what beliefs that you really believe in your life. So for someone who has adapted the ability to become this successful athlete, it would show on the outside. They got a deal, they met up with teams. This guy was talking about when you become these things and you get so rooted in an identity of what you want, things will come to you. He mentioned how when you become a fighter on a mainstream platform, HBO comes to you. You don't send applications to HBO and to whatever the wrestling or, the term is that you would use. The NFL, they invite people to come to the combine. The opportunities are drawn to you when you become exactly who you want to be. And this is really the main thing that really deep philosophers like Neville Goddard talk about: having the feeling of the wish being fulfilled, going to the end, which is going to whatever that identity or whatever person that you want to be, going to that person at the end of it, not trying to get there, not struggling, not, some days you're good, some days you're not. Like, this is what the people talk about when they're saying wake up and do the things that you would do if you were the CEO, or if you were the successful entrepreneur, or if you were whatever it is that you want to be. Add these things in your life, become them, go to the end. Because in reality, it's not necessarily that imagination creates your reality. Like, it's not a magical thing. It is when your perception changes, your behavior changes, and after your behavior changes, the outcomes changes. So it's as simple as your identity changes your perception changes your behavior, and then your behavior changes your outcomes. That's how you go to the end, and it just kind of falls like dominoes. So I think the most powerful thing that anyone can do is to decide who they're becoming. Decide who you are going to be, especially if you're not there. And 9 times out of 10, if we're unhappy with our lives, it's because of an identity mix match or an identity non-identity, or either you are carrying this identity that you don't want to have. Someone that is not productive and that doesn't have any discipline, or someone who's not making the money that you want to make, someone who's not performing in whatever it is that you want to have in your life. If you shift your identity, your whole life will change. So the most powerful shift I believe anyone can make is not trying to force new habits. It's not trying to work harder. And it's not trying to force something into your life. It's to decide who you're becoming. Take a moment, sit down, be clear, and decide who you're becoming. Because once you decide and you step into that identity of deciding who you are becoming, everything else will just fall into place. You will start to do everything else that you need to do. Your decisions, your behaviors, your persona, your body language, all of it will align up with the identity you're becoming. Now, for me, when I first started learning about these things, it was like I'm a big, give me the steps so that I can follow them, right? So it's not like, people will say things to your blue in the face and it's like, I need steps. What, change your identity? What does that mean? So I went to the lines of researching, and I started to find people that are doing and that are where I want to be. And it allowed me to step into how I feel when I'm watching them or when I'm observing them. It allowed me to tap into that energy, because I believe that is really what you want to feel. On top of whether there is grooming things that people do, if you see someone that you want to be like, I ran into a girl yesterday, and she had the most amazing skin, and I was like, oh my gosh. In my mind, I was like, my skin needs to look like this. Like my bone structure, it needs to look like this, And of course, anatomy. But I still truly believe anything you want, and if you believe it in your head, it'll change. Like, I just feel like people's bodies have changed because of something that they actually really wanted to do. But as I digress, research the people that are doing, that look, whatever it is that you want. If it's an entrepreneur, if it's an athlete, study these people, because they have allowed themselves to align to a certain frequency that you really just want to tap into in order to feel the way they feel, so that you can draw the things that you need to draw within your life. I do feel like sometimes people talk a lot about be and do this and become, but I don't think people naturally automatically give people practical tips. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned. And I think that's why a lot of times people talk about getting a mentor and getting advisors, and I believe life coaches would probably help with some of these things, but it's so much information out there now. I believe that anything that you want to become, you can study someone and take it as your own, and sprinkle your own little thing in it, of course, and become that person, become your version of that identity. Another exercise that I believe is really important when you are trying to shift your identity and to manifest or be this person that you want to be, and you feel like it's within grips, and even if you don't, even if this is the first time you've ever even had this epiphany that, oh, this is what I need to do, ask yourself, what would the person that you, this identity that you want, what do they look like? What do they do? If you were this person, what would your everyday tasks look like? Would they be productive? Would they wake up early? Would they eat a balanced diet? Would they read daily? Would they exercise daily? All of these little bitty small things compile to create this identity that you want, right? So when you see someone and you admire them, that's what you see. You're seeing all of these things that they have, all of these little breadcrumbs and all these little bitty steps they've done in their lives to become this person. Like, I think that's why we admire a lot of times celebrities so much, because they all have this niche, they all have this rooted identity where no matter what it is, they have created this identity of themselves that draw people to them. And of course, I do believe a lot of things go with a thought process too. That's why it's so big to ask that question, like, what do this person do every day? Habits would they have, and what type of disciplines would they have to actually be able to step into this energy of this person? Because that's what's important. The feeling, like going to the end. And when they talk about going to the end, it's like when you think about someone on their wedding day. Like, I always use that version, probably because it's one of my things. Like, you know, when someone becomes a wife, even I feel like up into the wedding and everything, like, people feel like you become this wife. It's like this identity you take on, but it has to happen before the wedding, right? You can't still feel like be a single woman, you know, all the way up into that, or even before that. Like, I believe even for someone to really want someone to be their wife, like, you need to be able to, and vice versa, a husband, like, you know, you have these certain qualities. You're dependable, you are responsible, you know, all of these things that people want to identify with when you have a husband or a wife. Or, you know, even I used like the last example of when you're a lawyer. You know, a lot of times lawyers look like they have this kit on, like, that's what I always call it, like this kit. In all honesty, we all carry a kit, whether that is from the people you grew up with or your family or the people that are in your soul. The beauty thing is that as humans, we can decide and change and take on and take off these kits at any moment. Life doesn't change because we decide to try harder. Life changes when we decide to become a different version of ourselves. So the most fascinating question of all time is, who are you becoming? Because you can decide and change at any moment of the day. So I'm gonna leave you with, decide, who are you becoming, and shift into it.